Welcome to the mechanics portion of Triatrade. This is usually well received by students because, well, there's a lot of tools involved and everybody drives around in cars. So we start out by organizing your tools, laying them out very nice and neat on a table or two. And you've got a set of sockets, you have some combination wrenches, there's a torque wrench, and then trays to put the parts in. So being very organized in mechanics, it's just like being a doctor. You have to be organized, and so that way people can find the right tool for the right job, and that's how you reduce nuts and bolts from people using the wrong tool and then stripping them. So I've sort of sped this up a little bit, but you want the students, there's two motors to work on, taking the valve cover off, and there's lots of nuts and little nuts on there, and so they can see inside and see a bunch of gears and valves and where moving parts would be. And as a mechanics student, you probably can talk to the students and tell them quite a bit about how an internal combustion engine works, and have the students taking off all the pulleys for the different belts that are required on a car, and you can talk about that. And then the idea is that we're going to be able to expose the timing chain, and you can explain how that works. The main thing is getting tools into the students' hands, but trying to teach them about the different types of tools, how a socket works, how a ratchet works, how they go together, how you put a socket onto a ratchet, how you take them off. It is something that they're learning, and they pick up really quickly. And they want to try to take things apart, but you may have to actually have some students doing the reverse and actually putting the parts back on when you have one group backed by the next one. And because we have such a nice mix of males and females, it's nice for every person to get a chance to take things apart, and you get a chance to talk about it. And we actually have two engines to work on. One is in the upright position. Then the other one, we actually have it flipped around the other way, and we'll be seeing that one next. But it's nice to be able to show the students and describe things. So here's the other motor. Now this one's turned upside down, and they'll be taking the oil pan off, and the purpose of this is then they can actually see the connecting rods, the crankshaft, and where the pistons go. So great learning experience for you. You can take it as far as you want. You may want to have it partly disassembled. The idea though is you want the students using the tools. And then if you want to explain or show something, that's fine, but it has to be back together. All the nuts and bolts need to be put back in their right spots. So we're taking things off. We can take the manifold off. It's quite heavy. Be careful that when you see students taking things off, you need to prepare them and tell them that things can be heavy and you don't want to drop them on your feet. But explain what they're used for. So the two engines are really handy to be able to work on. Notice the trays underneath, where you can put all the nuts and bolts for that motor. That way they don't get mixed. And then the other part is the car that a couple of the mechanics students managed to cut in half and take the roof off it. It's a little Mazda car. And the students are going to learn how to check air pressure and put air into a tire, and also how to change a spare tire. I would recommend 2 students at a time working on that, while the other 3 students can be disassembling the engines on the stands. So all the students will be working. You'll be working really double time because you've got groups doing 2 different things. So show them how to check air pressure and then fill the tires. You probably want to do this right at the beginning with all 5. Show them how to use the tools, how to check air pressure, and where the components are. So that'll take you probably 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning, and then the students can just work after that. And you'll switch them halfway through so that they all get a chance to do some tire repair. The car has got some safety blocks on it because it is unstable, because there's only 2 wheels on it, not 4, so we don't want it to tip. So always be checking for things. Show them how to release the difficult nuts on a tire when they've been on there for a long time or torqued on there, so using their mechanical advantage of their foot and their body to be able to get the nuts started. And how to use a jack and to put something underneath the base of it so that it distributes the load. And the students will jack the car up probably about 1 inch off the ground is adequate, and make sure that it's safely blocked up so that when the wheel is off, if it does fall, that it can't fall too far. So always thinking about safety And that's what your job is to share your experiences about how it's important to work safely. And they're going to take all the nuts off and make sure that they organize their nuts, keep them in a tidy place. And you may actually have a couple of techniques that help you to make sure that the wheel it comes off and you don't hurt your back when you're lifting it off, and rolling it instead of lifting it always. Getting the spare tire out of the trunk and putting the spare tire on. You can talk to the students about making sure they've checked the air pressure prior, like their spare tire always has air in it. How to tighten the nuts and bolts on it, and keeping organized. Once they do tighten it, there is a torque wrench there, and we're looking at 70 psi for the torque setting. That's standard torque setting for tire lug nuts. Once the lug nuts are all on and it's torqued into its right tension, then we lower the jack. Actually, you have to lower the wheel before you can use the torque wrench, because you can't get enough traction to actually tighten the lug nuts. Always looking at safety. So we really can't jack both sides and change both sides at the same time. So on the other side, you could probably have a student which would be checking the air pressure on the other tire, and you might even want to let some air out so that the students actually have to put some more back in. Just remember, your little tidy tank only has so much air capacity in it. And always checking the air pressure before and after. It's getting them used to using a tire gauge and teaching them about pounds per square inch, PSI. And at the end of the session, make sure that you have everything back and ready to go for the next group. So it's a lot of work, but it's very exciting for the students.